Sam, it's good to see you.
Me too. Thank you for inviting me.
Every time I think about you or see you, I think I've never seen this guy outside a newsroom. I don't know your life outside a newsroom. I met you in the newsroom. I left you in the newsroom. What is the newsroom like over the years?
Okay. I've been around over 20 years, so yes, I've seen the newsroom's evolution. Let me not say revolution, but evolution over the years. In the days when, for me, I was a freelance journalist, and freelance means, those days used to mean you have limited rights in newsrooms. So you can't sit on computers, you can't take company equipment and so on. Anyway, and that changed. Today's freelance is much better. Before
you even go further, do you know that when I joined, you gave me a seat?
I don't even remember.
You did. Wow. You were sitting at that table that next to the mirror.
Yes.
And I sat behind you for a very long time. And I think it was Andrew that was sitting there.
Yes.
Was it Andrew? And then you helped me secure a seat. So I definitely understand the dynamics at that time. How has it evolved to now, where we are?
Okay. Well, it's more professional. Those days when I began, early 2000s, there were many guys who did all sorts of things, and they loved journalism. And they actually excelled. But now they're coming in, you need to be, it's more strict, it's more mass communication, qualification in journalism, a diploma.
Really?
Yes. It's more now, especially for companies like National Media Group. Maybe the small radio stations, even those, you find that somebody needs to have done it. And I think it goes back to the quasi-regulations we have by government, that they may come down and ask for the qualification of these guys. So I think people sort of are aligning. But also, the journalism then was difficult to do. You had to have grit and you had to excel. There was no mediocrity.
You were doing it all at that point.
Yes. But as time goes by, you tend to see practicing journalists a little bit shallow. When it comes to serious stuff, only a few stand out. So you have these generic guys, they go for simple things. Ideation doesn't have depth with it, and they go on. Especially social media, you can put up rubbish and be okay.
As long as people like it.
Yes, you get likes.
People resonate with it and comment.
Absolutely. The core sense and depth is not as it used to be then. Yeah. And if you don't, now you can survive even without grit, because you can have a personal account online and you put your stuff, whatever you want to talk about, and people like, and YouTube pays you. So it's a bit different from now, from then. The evolution also means that they're serious individuals, but also we have been challenged by technology.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about AI is latest, but the whole digital move, which media houses like ours are still struggling with. Yeah, we are used to the legacy.
Yeah.
It still pays our bills, but we are struggling to move digital where people are going. The segmentation, we are yet to embrace it, but we have no choice. We'll have to.
What keeps people like you there for 20 years and not just 20 years that you're now in a place where you're no longer active in the field? I mean, I see you doing the link, I see the posts on social media and so on. So you're still very present in the everyday of a newsroom. What's kept you there?
There's been change. The 20 years have not been stagnant. When I started off as a radio reporter. But trust me, I was reporting for 2 radio stations at a go and a newspaper at a go. And both of these radios had different sort of script formats for news. I had to understand all, and a newspaper. So sometimes you get one story, you do 3 formats of it. Print, this radio, and the other radio.
And print, you mean you also need to have some pictures?
Yes, okay, pictures, I wouldn't worry about them, but proper texts, more sources than radio. And I did that. That's what I was talking about earlier, grit. But once I did that, then I moved into now mainstream radio. Now I left the newsroom and got into programming, became a producer. But the programs were current affairs leaning. So it kept me sort of close to current affairs, but it exposed me more. I appreciate that. The exposure there was not just stories, was analysis. You get an issue, dissect it, give it talking points. After that, then I moved to TV. After some years in TV, then I moved back to doing services that cut across print, radio, everything else. Right now, I'm doing training and partnerships, a whole sort of new world. I'm still there, but speaking about partnerships, you are now talking high-level stuff, which is not newsroom things, yeah? So, yeah, you can see me there in 20 years, but I've been moving around.
And you were in the business desk.
Yes,
at some point.
That was the anchor.
You were doing the link.
Yeah, that's a program which was a personal initiative, and then it was supported by the company, and it's still there. And again, speaking about the link, which is a show, I sat down as once in the business desk, even an editor there, and I thought, okay, we have all this news, but there's business news stuff, not news, business stuff that no one talks about.
Yeah.
For example, how do I choose a color for my business? What's the psychology of color? If Josephine, you started a company and you have a product, how do you price? What's the basis of pricing? And no one talks about those things, but people know. And people need to know. So now what I was doing is to bring those who know and those who don't know together. I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
So I have been around, but I've not been stagnant. Otherwise, if you get stagnant, time runs ahead of you.
Yeah.
And eventually you can get a bit disillusioned if you're not careful. Then what question comes in? Yeah.
For all the time that you've been there, at what point did climate change start to be a conversation in the newsroom?
Good question. I don't know whether I can point a specific time, but I tell you, there was a time when there was environment. And the climate change question was popping up, but for us, environment and climate change were the same thing. When did we begin to disaggregate these things?
For climate to stand out on its own?
More recently. As recent as 2 years, I guess. That's how recent it is. Because no one had picked up the clarity on our side, but also no one had got interested to show us the clarity. It was still an amorphous topic as we view it from globally. Yes, they were saying there are all these floods, there's all this temperature rise. We were like, yeah, but that's the environment, cutting off trees and all these things. And we got a lot of help from partners. I want to be very, very appreciative. Partners helped us because they were clear on the agenda. And we needed capacity. And they recognized that we needed capacity. And we didn't pretend that we knew. We also allowed we don't know. That helped. In terms of the concepts, how do you separate them? With the Climate Smart Jobs project, we were able to get the conceptual clarity. The stories we always knew, but we needed to draw the lines and say, this one is environment, this is climate change. And I remember that training where we sat with you in that ideation session where we were discussing. People brought all stories and we were asking, where is the climate change aspect in there? And it was very good because we were calibrating particular story ideas to climate change or to environment.
You know what stuck with me when I walked into that room?
Yeah.
The number of people in that room. Because the thinking is always everybody runs to politics.
Yes.
Everybody runs to health.
Yeah.
Education. But when I walked in and I saw you had no space.
Yeah.
I remember I got in and I had nowhere to sit and somebody called me and took me to a corner somewhere. It just showed me that this was an important conversation.
Yes. Especially because the training helped us see. I'll give you an example. As we were in these training sessions, there was a journalist from, I think, Zombo, northern Uganda. And he was talking about the woman whose livelihood is sustained by firewood, biomass. And unknown to her, she was partly contributing to the pollution, as small as that. But then the question was, what can she do?
You have to give a solution.
Yeah.
You're not just saying things.
That approach to looking at climate change not as only the global warming, but down to the household of a woman in the village and her livelihood, helped these journalists to see that, oh, it could look that complicated, but it may not be that complicated to build it from down. Yes, it's complicated when you go to the melting of glaciers in the mountains and then downstream and the flooding and everything else. Yes, but it could be as simple as a household. The coffee story, connecting the climate change to the proliferation of pests, and then the whole question of if Corona coffee came to deal with the fact that the previous coffee was being attacked by pests, but also it was withering because of the change of temperatures, and Corona coffee was supposed to be more resilient. How long will it go as the temperatures begin going? Like that analysis, there was no connection initially. Everything, there were all these dots apart. But with this kind of training, it brought the dots together, and people are like, oh, that's how it is. So we needed helping us to connect the dots.
Yeah.
So that we can start to see that it's not actually something heavily scientific and we can't deal with it.
You know, that's where I was going.
Yeah.
When I have conversations with people outside of this room and I'm talking about climate change, even the people who tell me, so now you're doing something around climate change, and I say, what do you think about the subject? They say, it's just very complicated. It's just not my business. It's for those people. How do you, as journalists then, I mean, just look at you. You were in totally different fields.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're standing up in this room of journalists and you're the one helping them question if the stories they're telling are climate stories and if these stories are actually able to reach people and make sense to them.
Absolutely.
How do you make this complex subject resound with the people you want it to reach?
Good question. It goes back to what I said earlier. First of all, to understand it. Because what you're referring to, who said is very complicated, is not my thing. That's a perception. They have closed their eyes and ears and said, I don't want to know. But that's not how things are. But for us, having brought it down, helping us to bring it down, realize that, hey, it's actually something we can do. Yes, as you deal with the basic things, then you get attracted to the science.
Yeah.
What one expert, I think Nick, said, thresholds. If you come to me and start with thresholds, you might push me away. But if you start with the basic, then I begin to see, okay, then there are thresholds. You build a road and then how long will it last with the temperatures rising? Like, okay, I get that. But if you start there, I'm thinking, sounds abstract. I know climate change has the complex side and the basic side. So I also guess it has been a challenge by the climate change movement, let me call it that. They sometimes have not successfully helped certain stakeholders like the media in that kind of format, basic to complex. They have pushed a lot of complex and the effects. Some people, I saw a documentary, they call it mutant weather. They even call it mutant, you can imagine. And that's a term, mutant weather, and they're showing how tornadoes have become so rampant, and tornadoes are pushed by warmth in the temperatures in the atmosphere. But that's how they are pushing. That's all you see, disaster. But you don't see the build-up. And yes, they show the effect on the households, but then insurance came in, they lost these billions, and it stops there. They don't complete the whole cycle from A to Z. And here we start with the A. As we build from A to B to C to Q, eventually when you reach Z, it makes sense.
Can we afford at this point to still be saying it's complex, it's propaganda, it's none of my business, I can't be bothered?
No, we can't. We can't afford that because either you like it or not, or you close your eyes, the effects are here. say you go into agriculture and we think agriculture is for the peasants. No. Many people who have, from the corporate world, have gone to agriculture. And all these effects, the pests,
it's the retirement plan.
Some are not even retired, yes, but yes, a fallback. Yeah. But some have just passion. And
you fall back to it and it hits you.
No, I was talking to somebody, strangely. I was talking to somebody who planted coffee recently. And guess what? They planted coffee because the rains seem to have come. After 1 week or two, they stopped. And the coffee withered. And the guy was like, I've invested a lot of money. This is when I was saying you need to adopt irrigation. And they said, now, see, agriculture is if you involve in it, you have to invest actual money.
Yeah.
That's a mindset developed from being hit by the impact. And all this shift in the rains has hit many people.
Yeah.
If we are able to connect that, rains come, 1 week they come down, and then 1 month no rains, too hot. Even now it's raining, but temperatures are very high. If we're able to tell more stories along that, people will begin to say, hey, because it's closer to their skin. It's not scientific.
Yeah, it hits home. You're seeing your farm totally dry out.
And just to throw in something there, touching money. Because when we talk about landslides in Bududu and somehow connect the dots back, people are thinking, those are poor people. But here it's about your planted coffee. It's withering. Do you know it's climate change? You say, how?
So Nation Media Group right now has a climate change desk.
Yeah.
What does that signify for climate journalism?
Think about it. There is a hub, or there's a desk, if you like, for health. That means that ideation and execution of stories sits somewhere. It's not scattered.
Like someone is waking up and thinking.
Yes, that's what they
every day.
think.
Yeah.
And if I got any invitation, anything that has the word climate change in it, I know where to send it. I'll not be scratching and saying, who has been doing. No.
You throw it to the environment.
No, actually, we have a WhatsApp group. You just drop it there. Of course, the editor will handle. There's an editor even. The editor will handle that and say, this one, give it. There's a cluster to choose from.
Yeah.
Before then, there was no. So that is significant because then those guys being in this area are not by mistake, because others had a chance to come, but they didn't. So we got these guys who were interested, and it wasn't even a handpick. No, it was a call. And these guys came and
full room.
Yes, they chose that. Yeah, I like.
And you had people from across the country.
As far as Kisoro, and as far as Zombo, West Nile, and then from Eastern Mbale, Sorot. Yes, that means they have passion. They see. I think there's affinity. They have tried to get to understand, and for the first time, there was an opportunity of a climate change related training. By the way, that was the first one ever for us. What we knew about climate change was this international conference called, I've forgotten what they call, COP. That was
Conference
the
of
thing,
Parties.
and it was there, up there. Certain guys are the ones who went there. It was about COP, but climate change is not about COP. It's about our livelihoods.
Yeah.
It's about our money, our future families.
Have you seen in the last couple of months of the partnership and from the training, have you seen concrete stories that have come out that you can maybe tell us one or two?
Yes, we commissioned. I can tell you specifically because I remember I put my hands on it. In fact, I'm the one who was pushing it to the editor.
Yeah.
The form that had to do with broadcast, because for print seems to have run away with climate change. Like they have got it, they write a lot of stories, but we were lacking in the broadcast area. So we sat down to ideate, and we were doing the perennial problem. Flooding in Kasese. Where is the climate change dimension? Where does the water come from? The Renzoris. Where is it coming from there? And then we followed all the way down in Toroko. They have taken a brand. Schools have been abandoned. Businesses have been abandoned because of that. That's one story that I remember stood out in our series. And I was involved. We planned and say how many days, who do you talk to, the pictures. The point was we wanted to take the issue from Ntoroko and go upstream. I don't know whether it's upstream because the water comes from up. I don't know whether that's correct. To go up all the way to Renzori and connect Renzori and Kasese to Ntoroko. That's like off-head, and that's one that stood out. In the past, we always did in Ntoroko and their floods. No climate change mentioned. So it was not new as the flooding in Ntoroko, but now we were connecting it back to climate change and where does it all originate. That's one thing that stands out for me. And then, yes, the previous one I talked about, coffee and the pests, and then the coffee variety Corona running out in terms of its being weather resistant, running out, and now something needs to be done. That also stands out because I used to wonder why does coffee wither very fast? Because of the rains. For me, it was the agriculture weather thing, no climate change. So if you ask me today about coffee, if I met a mulimi farmer, I would explain in the best basic possible way why they are struggling with their coffee and why irrigation is of essence.
What's been the reception to the stories that you've been doing?
That's a question. I don't know whether it needs quantifying or what, but I can't say we can relax and say, oh, everybody's clapping their hands yet. Why? Because we are building a momentum. But yes, we got some responses, I can tell you, and I was speaking to journalists. Like in northern Uganda, I don't remember the story it was, that is leader, I think. It enlisted the response of the district environment officer. There was some encroachment that was taking place, and the reporter did connect it back to climate change. The government started to take action. We can get final details of that. Started to take action on the people who were causing impact on the environment in that instance. But it was because of the trigger of the story. There's another one I can't remember because I was looking for the impact.
Yeah.
What have stories done to invoke? I can confess that they're not like 100 reactions. Again, when you put it online, there are people who read them who are interested in the subject. But I don't think we have done enough to make it a subject where there is, for instance, elections.
So when elections come, everything just sort of...
but even before then, a musician is coming from abroad and is going to do a concert. The other media houses have done small stories of floods have happened, so people think, the usual. This thing called climate change, I don't think we have done enough for it to start being in people's faces yet.
So NMG was one of the institutions that was recognized at the at the Uganda National Journalism Awards that are organized by the African Center for Media Excellence.
Yeah.
And you were recognized along with New Vision and Infonile for your commitment to reporting on climate change. Yeah. What does that mean? What message does that send out to the newsrooms?
Okay. First, how could we not? I mean, if our mission involves also educating and empowering communities, how could you not do climate change? So, for our DNA, we had to do climate change. But since we're one of the big newsrooms, us taking it up will definitely attract others. We just need to do it a little longer. And people start noticing that there is interest there. And the small media houses tend to follow the bigger ones. We are sort of reference points. People leave us and go to the small media houses. Some leave those ones and come here. That movement of people does build a profile. I'll give you an example. For business news, other people did not have dedicated
desks.
Business news desks. In fact, some don't have, but now you'll find that there is one or two stories, whatever, in a Uganda bulletin somewhere, one of those radios and TVs. Why? Because there's a reference point. And while we did business news, we never relented. We were at it. It was predictable. Year in, year out, you'll find a bulletin. Environment, same thing. Until then, the other partners that came, DWTV and all that, why they see those things and they want to associate fast with those who are doing them. Then other people realize that there's also opportunity. That also is a catalyst for others to get involved. So the communication here is that it's a big issue. Play with at your own peril. Yes, there are opportunities, but then it's real stories of people. And it's something we cannot ignore. And it's a subject whose stories ought to be told.
How does a desk like that survive?
Good question. Right now, we have gone through the partnership with Climate Smart Jobs and established the climate change desk. We are here, and that helps because we have understood. Now, the question of sustainability depends on how effectively we pass on the information to the next guys. Otherwise, it can wobble. And that's when I would say, really from my heart here, we will need more collaboration for a while. I've realized there's nothing. Politics is sort of obvious. But there are other things of a special interest type which you need to drum for a while until it sinks and it becomes part of DNA. I do not think we have effectively ingrained it as part of DNA. It takes a generation rollover. And that means the current generation has to do it long enough. And don't ask me about years. Maybe not so many years because it's a global issue. But it needs to be done long enough
for it to stick.
Until it starts involving other people. Until we start seeing a climate change story go viral on TikTok. There. It will even attract the bloggers. Well, they can't blog about it because they won't get it. You understand? We need that kind of thing.
You know, at the beginning of this conversation, before we turned on the cameras, you said it's real. It affects real people, single homesteads. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
It's a story. Those things are facts. Finished. But who's going to present that to people? Our job. But we need to appreciate the dot connection, the dot connecting in order to tell the story so that some people say, let me give an example. Fistula. It was around affecting women until it decided to be drummed. How many times you saw it in bulletins? Very many times. It's the same ailment.
Yeah.
But it's drummed. We were all turned fistula. All illness is suicide. Of late. Suicide. Now people start saying, So, it is significant that the message of climate change is drummed down, and we're talking about real people through the eyes of actual people. Do it so many times, I can't ignore it anymore. And then one day it's going to hit my mother or my grandma, and I'm like, that's the thing I've always been saying. Now it's closer to my heart. I'm not a journalist. I'm a 1-inch, but now I get it. This thing comes from when you burn, stuff goes in the air, disorganizes the air, it gets hot there, disorganizes the weather. Everything is in extreme terms. Too much rain, too much sunshine, and so on. People say, hey. But if I sit on the border, even when I was coming here, people tend to see that, the rain is also too much, Banangi, these days. Oh, it's too hot. They know. But no one has told them that there's this animal, the thing called climate change. It is this thing we're experiencing it, but so we need to complete the picture. And that's the work we have to do.
You know, Nation Media Group has all of these platforms. You have radio, you have newspapers, you have TV, you have all these social media platforms. How do you reach communities? So you said, okay, you have a reporter in Zombo.
Yeah.
But it's a bureau. Do you have a bureau? Or the bureau is in Arua?
Arua, yes, under the Arua.
How do you ensure that you actually reach that smallholder farmer with this information that I can tell from the way you're speaking is vital for them?
That's a challenge. I'll answer it like that. Reaching the farmer. First of all, the farmer does not have any of these things. Doesn't have internet, doesn't have a TV. They might have a radio, but our radio frequency doesn't reach them. So, when we raise the awareness of these issues, we are raising them for certain communities. Perhaps even decision makers. Actually, decision makers in Kampala, Parliament, because those ones tend to watch. Yeah? So you ask how? How would we? I don't think we are reaching the Zomba woman. That's honest. Because the means to reach them, every means, they have no access to it. And that's a structural issue, I would say. But how would we, for instance, reach that Zomba woman if we have linkages? We say community radio they listen to. Because the community radio may not have the capacity to explain. We have it. They don't have it, but they have the last mile reach to that woman. I mean, this whole thing requires linkages and collaborations. It cannot be done by one cluster. If we get linkages backwards, why not? The Zomba woman will listen to that thing about climate change in their language. The language of their heart, which we may not have. We have English, maybe Uganda here and so on, but we may not be able to speak in language in Zombo.
That one.
We may not be able to do that. So, intelligent linkages. We have the content. It can be translated in a way and format that woman can appreciate. I think that will be more effective. And we make it in such a way that they don't think these guys are disturbing us with their elitist stuff. Also, the psychology of the community has to be understood. That means we may need to bring in a community psychologist also to tell us, how do they think? If I have firewood and you are telling me it's causing climate change, so what do you want me to do?
Do you think enough journalists care about the work they do and its impact? That if I did this story, do I ever go back to this community and say, I did this story of this woman or of this refugee here. I came and interviewed them and I went away and did my story. It ran on national TV. Did they ever see it? Did they find out that in that story there was a solution that was given? Do you think that we care enough in the way we are practicing journalism?
If I say care, might be subjective, but it's a product of reality and the structure we live in. I'll give you as a journalist. Every day I do one story, and the next day that is history. They need another one. It's called a rat. R-U-T, like, it doesn't end. Then when the weekend comes, I'm like, if I go on the weekend for a days off, and then on Monday it's back. The story I did, yes, sometimes I can get acclaim if Climate Smart Jobs by Acme awards me. I say, oh yeah, and then by then that's finished. I put it in the cabinet.
Move on. I might begin to appreciate the subject. If I stay near the subject for a while, I begin to appreciate. But going back to the person, if it's in business, you know, the company might call you and say, oh, you give us a good mileage there. We got recognized and so on, maybe. But normally it is, if the community, I'll give an example. If a household has somebody who has fistula, for example, cover the story, and then some people, NGOs call us and say, can you give us the number of that person? Then we think we are making impact. But if that doesn't happen, we move on. It's not intentional. I know. You know what? I was just thinking about it and remembering that when I was still actively in the field, the stories that I followed were the stories of somebody who had a kidney issue and something, or somebody who they were mostly health stories, because those sort of touch you.
Human impact.
Yeah, and their families become part of the family in one way or the other, because these people are looking at you as you're going to help in some way, even by just putting out the word. But a lot of other stories, you're just moving on swiftly.
Absolutely. Even if you put out the help and no one responds,
Yeah.
Basically, you can't control the responses. Yes, you can see, there are many views, we clap, this story was views, yes, can be viral. But what goes viral is never serious stuff, eh?
That's true. Climate change doesn't go viral until there's an extreme disaster.
Which has affected some high-profile person's relative.
Do you believe that media has a critical role in shaping climate change conversations in Uganda?
Yes.
Africa?
Yes. Definitely yes. And use the word shaping, yes.
And I'll tell you that every single person that I've interviewed in this room, one of the things they speak about is the information gap.
Yeah. And basically the testimony I've just given you in the past was even us, as the big national media group. On climate change, we were off. And thanks to the partnership, we are somewhere now. But we are not flying. We are still, I don't think we are running. We are walking, probably from crawling. So if we have those issues, think about the smaller media houses. New Vision used to have people cover environment. They cover environment, not climate change. Even that clarity. So generally, in terms of the media capacity, something can be done. There is the will, evidently. And also bringing out the smaller media houses, the community people.
Yeah.
To show them, hey, this is the animal. Dealing with the big media houses helps in terms of a reference. You're not introducing something and they're like, where else has it been? You can tell them. In fact, it can be clever to do, if you ask me, to do an interaction of journalists. Mm-hmm. When a journalist, even if they are, and I've sampled that in other areas, the other day we went to Guru, we were talking about, I've forgotten what we were talking about, but we were from Nation Media and we met journalists in Gulu, the whole fraternity. We interacted at a certain level because they understood we were journalists and they're journalists.
Yeah.
It was very helpful. It was very warm. They didn't think, these guys have come to tell us. We were not telling them, we were conversing. They knew some things, we knew some things, and it was a very hearty share, so to speak, if you like. So I'm thinking sometimes recruiting more journalists might benefit from getting those who have been already converted and they show their work.
And the impact of it.
The impact of them, and then to enlist the support and the participation from community journalists and even show them how. Because the ideation, for instance, if there's a woman in Zombo with that woman, the guy in the community radio might not see that as a story. So but that's how we live, that's our life. What are you saying? They don't see the climate change dimension.
And it could be the other way around, that they're seeing and they're seeing the story, but the guys in the bigger radio TV stations don't see it
absolutely
as a national issue.
But my experience is normally the people who are very close. When I do training, which I do now for Nation Media, when I go to the bureaus, when I enter the cities, I just see stories and I tell them and they're first shocked. Then I start brainstorming with them, then they pull out their books, their notebooks and I say, guys, this is not a brainstorming session. I didn't come to do that. But they're like, hey, I'll give you an example. We went to Masaka and we're talking about the USMID infrastructure support, World Bank. And I was asking the impact of the coming of this infrastructure. And we said, I was here in an arcade. I see that many of the shops in the arcades have women. Do you guys connect the road to the arcade, to the women? And we ask which women, who owns those businesses? There's those women or their husband? Like they were like, we couldn't see that. With us, we see the women every day. So it's helpful to transplant experience from where it has been more grounded to touch the community.
Yeah.
The media houses like Nation Media may not be able to effectively touch the last mile for all the reasons in the world, destruction and otherwise. But the linkage can be done, and in 2, 3, 4 years, you start to see the big issue.
Sam, I'm closing this conversation. What one thing would you like us to take away from this last, hour? Oh, it's less than an hour of conversation.
we have the momentum. Now, whichever way we can, as the media at least, let's not slacken on the momentum. As I said earlier, let's be able to pass it on to generation. This generation is not 10 years, this is 2-3 years, because the guys, us guys who are there, we might just live in 2-3 years, and then the passion we have understood the issue needs to be passed on, but it can't be passed on verbally, it needs to be done. Stories done, ideas done. So we need to, in every way possible, step on the accelerator on the issue, and then maybe complete the linkages. Impact will not come in 1 year. Perhaps medium term, they say 3 years. You start to see as the world becomes worse in terms of climate change anyway.
Thank you, Sam.